the cloud server. And there's no sound coming through. So I don't know. Nothing. What are we doing here? Breakout system start focus mode. No, I'm recording, and it shows on the mic that it's recording, that it's getting a sound signal from me that's going on to the Zoom server. So I can only assume that the difficulty is on your end. No, nothing. So this is your telephone that you're using. Do you want to try going back to the computer? I'm not sure if that'll do anything for you. And you're off. No, nothing.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I gotcha.
Strange. Don't know what's up with that.
It's the old, if you can't figure it out, reboot.
Or use a different device entirely.
Oh, okay. So you're on a computer now?
Yeah, which is why
Okay.
I don't have
Video.
video. Hey, Beans, can I use your computer? Okay, don't worry.
What's the issue?
Well, I have no webcam.
No, like what's the issue with the?
Well, on my phone, the sound isn't coming through. Don't worry about it. I'm going to see if I can connect up the Droid cam. A second. Droid cam. Open. If I open Droid cam on this, will it open Droid cam? There we go. Droid cam. Start. Oh yeah. So if I go flip away, flip, good. Still this way. So if I use start video using Droid Cam.
Wow,
There we go.
there you go.
Yep.
Looks good.
Okay.
So
We're in business.
so you're actually you've got the telephone set up at one side, is that right?
Yeah. The telephone, my camera is
Right. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
Okay.
yeah. I'm plugged in. So okay. So we are talking about BNB and Coinbase as trading platforms. And I guess this is only brought up because I mean it was a bit of a rigmarole to get this topic cleared up because I guess this was based off of notes you've been taking over the past couple of recordings. So maybe the best way to start us off is by sort of taking us through or taking me through what I guess what you've seen, like I don't know what you speculated, like how do you understand Coinbase and how do you understand Binance currently, and I'll do my best to fill in the gaps from what I know, and then I guess we can kind of progress a conversation from there. So this week's discussion won't be so much a central question beyond just the clarification of Binance and Coinbase. Like what is Binance and what is Coinbase? I feel like that's pretty much what we'll be discussing this week, unless you have a better way of framing it.
Yeah. Okay. So no, I think you're right that I come to crypto and the crypto world, as do many people, from complete ignorance. Obviously, this world didn't exist before 2009. And for you, that sounds like a relatively long period. And for me, that's a relatively short period from 2009. And so I first became aware of crypto through cryptocurrencies, right? Particularly through first through the Satoshi Nakamoto paper in 2008, and then the launch of Bitcoin in 2009, and then a whole stream of other coins. And when you became interested in it, then I became much more aware of the fact that there's a whole ecosystem. And last week we looked at one part of the ecosystem where we were looking at Celsius. And Celsius I could relate to very easily because it looks exactly like a bank, but it's banking crypto rather than banking fiat currency. And I know from our previous discussion, we had a discussion about your investment activities. And your investment activities included yield farming. And I know that you were working through trading platforms, and that you had a wallet that you, like most people, do not actually hold directly the cryptocurrency, that you use that you use a wallet, which may or may not be an intermediation process. And I'm not completely sure about what kind of a wallet that you hold, whether it's a hosted wallet or a self-custody or a non-custodial wallet. So I'm not sure exactly the degree to which you're intermediated, but I became aware that there are many financial intermediaries in crypto space. And one set of financial intermediaries are, of course, the platforms, the trading platforms. And some weeks ago, you mentioned both Binance, which I believe you work with, that you actually use Binance as a tool, and Coinbase, which I believe you're not using as a tool. But you are aware of Coinbase because, of course, Coinbase, if one wishes to invest in the stock market in crypto, Coinbase is the most popular vehicle to invest through the regular stock market into crypto. So both Coinbase and Binance are trading platforms. At least that's what they do mostly. And they both present risks that any intermediary presents. So if you're buying an asset, a financial asset through an intermediary, then you face risks on it. And so where it came up several times, I mean, this fact, right, that there was this part of the trade of the ecosystem, which was trading platforms and wallets. And they were Binance and Coinbase were part of that. This fact also came up when we were talking about proof of work versus proof of stake, and about your activities in staking currencies and getting a return from that staking currencies, and the less wasteful nature of staking for the verification of the next block in a blockchain, the cheaperness of staking versus working. And so at some time ago, you mentioned this, and you mentioned staking, and you mentioned Binance, and I thought through my notes that we'd come to a question, which was, what has staking got to do with Binance and Coinbase? So that was how I wrote that topic down. Believe it or not, I think that I passed that topic through you, saying, will we talk about this next week? Obviously, now the next week from now is talking about secret coin and the extent to which it solves various problems. But having talked about a bank in crypto world, then I thought it would be natural to talk about a platform, a trading platform in crypto world. And that's how talking about Binance and Coinbase came up. We then had a conversation outside of this conversation, and you said, well, you know, that's pretty obvious what staking is, and we can't really do something interesting. Why did you think that this was interesting? And I mentioned the fact that these two companies, Binance and Coinbase, are really very different, and they feel different. And if you, as a retail investor, have to put your confidence in an intermediary, and in some sense put your money with the intermediary, even though it's just a wallet or just a trading platform, I'd put it with Coinbase and not with Binance. So that's how we came to this version of the topic, I think, which is what is the question?
Well, there isn't really one, to my knowledge. There's just clarifying the difference of Binance versus Coinbase, and I think through all that catch up,
trustworthiness.
The trustworthiness of one versus the other, and getting clarity on how you see trustworthiness, because a lot of crypto adoption obviously has to do with the ability to conversate, to have discussions about
Trust,
where you're going to put your money and what seems trustworthy. So it's definitely fascinating from I want to call it linguistic, but it's not linguistic. It's from just a conversational, a matter of conversation, like how ideas disseminate and how the sense of trustworthiness disseminates from one person to the next. Where, yeah, I mean, I've only been involved in cryptocurrency since the end of 2020, really the beginning of 2021. And that's when I was able to have some relative modicum of success, given there was just an explosion up until March. But without getting into those details about the meager profit I was able to make, the I guess confidence, because that's really the topic for today, the confidence in Binance, definitely that I have over Coinbase. Even though I have one share of Coinbase, I have traded in the BNB coin, which is Binance's coin is BNB, and it's in the top 3 in market cap. So just in money circulation alone, it is very trustworthy, in the sense of, well, the top one is Bitcoin, the second one is Ethereum, and the third one is BNB. So that makes it trustworthy. But as you've been, I don't think you said these words exactly, but you said it before this call, that because Binance is located, or at least stated to be located in the Cayman Islands, then that gives it this sort of hidden, nefarious, off the books sensibility to you. Like, this is the last thing I use as a trustworthiness gauge. I get the optics of it are bad, but I guess that kind of brings us to maybe, well, let's make it the central topic for today's discussion, which is, well, what is it that you would find, if not the market cap of Binance? Because I guess you could say that could be just a lot of wealthy people circulating their funds, buying and selling this cryptocurrency. So that doesn't necessarily predicate trustworthiness. And just the sheer fact that their central offices are dictated to be located in the Cayman Islands, then that's already the red flag. So is there anything that can offset that? Or
Okay. So first of all, just take a step back on the Cayman, right?
Okay.
So most of offshore Chinese companies that are trading in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and these account for the majority of the shareholding of the capitalization of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Most of those companies are either Cayman or British Virgin Island companies.
Okay.
So Cayman itself is not the red flag. It's Cayman is just a very, very useful post box, a useful location for corporations to be set up, because it's a tax neutral jurisdiction. And it's so having the registration there means that you're not going to get taxed because you have the registration there. But it's Cayman in combination with other things. So, for example, if there was a Hong Kong Exchange company that was listed in the Cayman, that company's books would be audited. So they would have the company's accounts would be according to international financial reporting standards, and those would be on a semi-annual basis, would be audited by the company's auditors, and they'd be reputable firms. Binance is not a listed company. So it doesn't have any requirements for auditing and for publicly disclosing what it is actually doing. Now, obviously, a private company could disclose if it wished to, but Binance has chosen not to. Binance, so that with Coinbase is a publicly listed company. It's listed through NASDAQ. It publishes annual financial statements that show exactly, unless the accounting company is being fraudulent, or the directors of the company are being fraudulent in what they give to the accounting company. So unless fraud is being committed, they show exactly what the company is doing. Now, that gives one a certain level of comfort, especially if you're old school, which I am, obviously.
Yeah, right.
So it's also, if you look at Binance, Binance, at least according to Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is my first go-to for information. According to Wikipedia, Binance is not able to offer its products in the United States, and it is under investigation for breach of securities law or breach of tax, or for tax evasion from the U.S. Justice Department and the U.S. Internal Revenue Service. So that doesn't look too good. Binance has been hacked several times fairly recently, and it's been alleged that it does money laundering. So it doesn't look that good. Now, Binance is this guy who is a Canadian, which is nice. And he's from Nanjing, or at least he's from Jiangsu, which I find kind of nice as well. And he went to McGill, and then he, after he learned about high frequency trading, then he set up this company. And originally he set it up in China, which is kind of nice too. So Binance was originally set up in China as a trading platform. And then, of course, in 2017, just after it had been set up, trading in crypto was outlawed in China. So what the guy did is he moved his servers to Japan, and since then he's basically been sort of a global company, but not in China. So he's an interesting guy. His folks brought him over from China when he was a young boy, and he grew up in Canada. An interesting guy, but I have less confidence in putting my money there than I would with a firm that's audited, where its stocks are traded on NASDAQ, and where it sort of comes from the Goldman Sachs tradition. Now, I realize that Goldman Sachs is not something that gives you a great deal of confidence, and I realize that they tend to take advantage of people when they can in order to make money, but at least I understand where they're coming from and what they're doing. And that's the background. It's Airbnb and Goldman Sachs. Those are the backgrounds of the founders of Coinbase. And when I go to the 10Ks, it's obviously as Securities and Exchange Commission compliant. And so I find working with them to be more confidence building. The idea that they only have, what did we say, 20 currencies? Rather than 200 currencies in a space that's almost 20,000 currencies in crypto. I find that more comforting than less comforting. And so if you asked me where I would place my wallet, especially if that wallet was a hosted wallet, where basically I don't have the risk of losing my numbers, and they are basically playing the role of an intermediary, and my crypto is being traded in a street name, then I'd be happier to have it traded through Coinbase than through Binance.
I mean, I get everything you said. Just for clarity's sake, because I'm doing research as we speak on like how many assets are being held on Coinbase. And so when I go to, I guess I can send you this link, and maybe you can, it says here, actually, it turns out there's 3,000 plus crypto assets like Bitcoin or Ethereum. So I think I might have had that wrong. I'll send you this link right now. So
okay, so what you're looking at is somewhere around 15% of what's out there.
Right, which would be about the same amount that's on Binance as well. We ascertained that roughly when I was scrolling through all the assets on Binance, it was also about maybe 2,000 or 3, and even though if it was upwards of 3,000. So for all intents and purposes, maybe Coinbase has more, which would be surprising to me. But then there's also Coinbase, I think it's like advanced, which is more in line with Binance when it comes to Coinbase just as a regular platform. Trading fees, I mean, they're quite basic for any day trader. They weren't really pleased with Coinbase, the options, the tools at a trader's fingertips to limit buy, to set their stop loss. So there's, I think, let me just double check this. Coinbase, is it advanced? But this is just a small detail, I guess, in Coinbase Pro. That's what it's called, Coinbase Pro. That's where maybe you'll have access to those 3,000 plus crypto that are listed. That was one point you had mentioned, that there was only 20. So just for clarity's sake, there's seemingly just as much as Binance second. The thing to clarify, and this is the part of the conversation which I guess on an initial like 5-minute search of Coinbase, then yeah, I mean, there's some things that Binance definitely has yet to reconcile, which is what you'd mentioned about being listed as a publicly traded company. I don't know if that's on their roadmap. What I do know is uh, that there is if you just did a quick Google search and you typed in Binance US, you would get a platform, a version of Binance that is usable within the US. So to what degree that, so it says here, trade over 80 cryptocurrencies. I'll send you this link as well. So it's unfortunate that that part of the information hasn't been updated on Wikipedia, obviously giving it at first impression basis, not a great first impression, but clearly there's been some information that hasn't been updated there when it comes to what legalities. And this isn't about convincing, once again, this is just about clearing things up. Because there's certain things which, like I said earlier, it's not a publicly traded publicly traded company, and I don't know whether or not it will be. So if that becomes the fulcrum, the sticking point, then there might never be kind of that point of reconciliation. When it comes to loss of and the platform being hacked, I know that that is equally an issue, has been an issue for people on Coinbase. I mean, I feel like hacking and security, that is just an issue on any platform, whether any major platform has had a hacking problem, and we'll see it as par of the course. To say that it's been hacked doesn't make it more or less credible. It's more kind of not even. It's more in reflection of the hacking. Have people stayed with it? Like, has the platform fallen apart? Has it recovered from that hack? I see that as a better litmus test than anything, because if you search up Coinbase users losing funds, there's been an abhorrent, I want to say absurd, but an unfortunate lack of customer service that's been well documented by journalists, where they will talk to the Coinbase user, interview them, say, and the Coinbase user will share the story about, well, we had all these funds, and then we tried to talk to Coinbase, and Coinbase is notorious for not having any customer support. I mean, this is the problem, I think, universally across crypto platforms when you're dealing with such a wide user base. To my knowledge, maybe both platforms have improved their customer support. So I think in retrospect to the hacking or the loss of funds, the loss of security, I have yet to sort of have a complete gauge on the best way to put one above the other. I would say they both have their issues, but I would say given the maintained user base, and I wonder actually.
You mentioned, you mentioned the differences among the user base, and I want to sort of interrupt here because of these different styles of wallets. Okay, and if you could sort of take me through hosted, self-custody, and non-custodial wallets. I mean, those maybe not the terms that you use, but where the hosted wallet, if you lose your the ID, right, the password, the link into the crypto, it doesn't really matter because it's all in the name of the platform. So you weren't holding that crypto directly anyway. And then you have another type of wallet where it's basically on you. They give you the software, but basically you are either holding or losing or transacting inappropriately that crypto. And I wonder whether this differs in terms of target market between Binance and Coinbase and other platforms as well. And whether you want to comment on that.
Well, I mean, yeah, it just Binance has a beginner version for people to trade, but it can seem overwhelming at first. Coinbase, just by its design, I think is set up to be more user friendly. But by and large, they are both very. I'd say they're very similar. And when it comes to withdrawing funds, because I haven't actually directly interacted with Coinbase. I know that people who have, they can take their funds off of Coinbase, because I was about to make a remark that I would use Binance any day of the week because of the ease to which I can take my funds off the platform. But I think I would be wrong to say that you can't do the same thing on Coinbase. So I would say they're actually very interchangeable, unless, no, I'd be surprised. I'd be very surprised if anyone were to try to prove me wrong on that point.
When you use your wallet on Binance, is it a hosted wallet where if you lost your ID and your password, that you would have lost it forever? Or is it a hosted wallet where if you lose it, then you haven't lost it forever because Binance is basically being the intermediary? Or is it a self-custody wallet where basically
it's not self-custody? No, it's Binance, or Binance. This is where Binance and Coinbase, like I said, are very similar, which is they hold your crypto, which gets us to the point of not your keys, not your crypto. Like, that is a circulated term, which is or circulated saying, where anyone who's deep into crypto strongly advises anyone buying crypto, if they really want to utilize crypto, their best bet is to be their own custodian.
Got it.
So yeah, to answer your question,
majority are not.
Majority are not custodians?
Are not their own custodians.
I mean, I don't know the number. Because there is it's actually, that can be a topic for another time, where, as you mentioned, I think one of our previous recordings, the data is all there. So what a lot of people who speculate on crypto like to do is they like to look at the amount of crypto that's being taken off of centralized exchanges, and that they use that data point as a signifier for a bull or bear market. If obviously, if you're putting Bitcoin onto an exchange, you're trying to trade away from it. So if it's taken away from exchanges, then this is a bullish sign.
Oh, okay.
So I wouldn't be able to make the remark that it's not a majority, because considering the amount of activity, the amount of Bitcoin, just Bitcoin, that's being used as a predictor, as a correlative factor towards crypto movement, I wouldn't speculate that it isn't a large percentage.
Okay, but you're right now on a hosted wallet, so that it's in the street name, and many people that you know are in that same space.
Many people I know are not in the space of holding it onto a crypto exchange. What I know and what I do in practice is I use a centralized exchange like Binance to buy the crypto, because it just saves me the headache of feeling uncertain that the trading pairs I'm trading between, I mean, there are trusted decentralized exchanges where the creator of the platform is not doxxed. You don't know who he is. And I've used that platform. So it's not to say I have not traded. I've traded off Binance. But if there's some cryptocurrency trading pair that I'm not familiar with and it's available on Binance, I will first go there, because it's just an immediate, clear, it's easy and accessible, versus trying to find another offshoot platform. And the trading fees are minimal. So I will trade on Binance to get the crypto. If I have a stable coin and I want the crypto, I will go into Binance if it's available, and then I will take it off the platform and I'll put it on my own. I'll be my own custodian, because then with that I can do a lot more than having it sit there.
Okay, so you do the trade on Binance and then you move it off the platform as well as soon as possible because of flexibility in yield farming or other activities, or because you'd rather not have the risk of having it on Binance. Is that
Yeah,
right?
because there's the risk to my experience, and it's more of a pain point that I've experienced more than anything, that when I was in Hong Kong, so I can log on, and the security I feel safe, but then it's a pain because I have to update my cell phone once I go to Hong Kong, and then I have to let the customer service know, and so that's because of security, and anyone could change my phone number. They want to make sure that I'm emailed, and then, well, are you sure this is what you want? And so it's an extra 24 hours. So that's a pain point of waiting to trade, to be able to have access to my crypto. And two, they've acknowledged that there's still, given that different jurisdictions in Canada have different legalities. So in Ontario, Binance is banned. Thankfully in BC, it's not. So randomly, the IP address, my IP address, because I have a VPN, just for my own use, that my IP might bounce to Toronto, and when it does, then I can no longer use the platform. So yeah, it's less of a security. I've not, in the 2 years that I've used Binance, ever felt like my crypto was insecure or not safe, but I have experienced just the lag in, because of all these checks and balances and all the legalities between different jurisdictions. Then yeah, my assets might suddenly be unavailable, and
And
that's a pain.
presumably this would be a difficulty that Coinbase would also share with Binance because of
Yeah,
the reporting requirements of the different
yeah, yeah,
jurisdictions.
yeah. So
So you don't
they
think that
can
that's
just randomly seize your assets, and that is the last thing you want. Or maybe not, they're not trying
freeze,
to seize it, but
freeze
they
it.
can make it unavailable. They will just be shut down, and if they're shut down, then you're just shit on luck.
Right, yeah. So you want, if you hold directly, then you're not going to be subject to freezing.
Yeah,
Okay, but if you are on any platform, then you will be.
yeah. Any platform, yeah. Obviously, if the platform, including yield farm, if you put your crypto in a yield farm, the website goes down, your crypto's gone. So yeah, anytime you put your crypto on any platform, then you're at their whim.
Okay, that's interesting. We came to this through staking. Okay, at least in one of my thinks, right? In one of my thoughts, we came through it through staking. So I just want to make a comment or a question with respect to staking. Okay, and I know that Binance has a native coin, and that's what you've referred to it many times, which is the BNC. BNB, I'm sorry, the BNB. And I'm curious, does Coinbase have a native coin?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, we could do a quick search. I have not heard of any. There's just your Coinbase stock, Coinbase crypto.
I think you're right, by the way, because I tried to look for it and couldn't find it.
Yeah,
But
there's just crypto Coinbase stock. I'm sure if they got into crypto, their own created their own crypto coin, I'm sure people would scoop it up. But yeah,
I'm
not
sure
in,
that they would. And I wonder, this is me wondering aloud, perhaps they don't, because they are trying to be more scrupulous from a regulatory
probably.
point of view
Probably.
with their major market, which is the United States.
Yeah.
And whatever Binance is dancing with the Justice Department and the Internal Revenue Department, United States government. The dance is, I think, more intense with Binance than it is with Coinbase.
Well, I mean, this brings up another topic that maybe we can address in 2 weeks from now after we look at what your take on, or just having a discussion really on the secret network next week. After that, we might want to talk about the SEC and what was it? The outdated Howey test. And this is something I've been hearing in rampant form or across, like many crypto enthusiasts or people who YouTubers that talk about crypto. They'll talk about how the issuing of the dictate how the SEC operates is very muddied waters, where they try to clamp down on these cryptocurrencies that aren't really currencies, and they're acting like securities. And so this terminology is very unclear. And what crypto companies like Celsius and XRP, you have a lot of people trying their best to operate within U.S. jurisdiction, but then it's there. The waters. There's a lot of
Uncertainty
accusation.
whether or not it is a security. Is that it?
What's that?
There's uncertainty with respect to whether or not crypto is a security.
Well, I mean, there's the crypto companies that are presenting all their facts, and then there's a lot of not damnation, but the SEC doesn't seem to be operating clearly. It doesn't seem to even know for itself, and this is the accusations that are being made right now, just based off of conversations which are readily available. Where when we see the conversation that's being played out, the SEC doesn't seem to know what they're doing, and they're trying to create these and trying to enforce laws upon cryptocurrency, but or cryptocurrency companies. But as the cryptocurrency companies respond, they're being met with silence. So that might be worth investigating further, because at least that's the amount of information that I have so far. And it's fascinating where a lot of people in the crypto community want to, and this plays directly into a conversation around secret network as well. People don't want to be bad actors. And I understand that you were asking about, prior to me mentioning all of this, about staking and BNB. Remind me again. Shoot. I mean, okay.
I understand where you're going with the SEC, and I think it's a good topic for the week after next.
Yeah.
And this would be, and believe me, this isn't just crypto that has this problem. Anything to do with finance and innovation within the financial sphere also has this problem. When one innovates, one comes up against existing laws, and the lawyers who draft the documentation that define your innovation always have problems with the interpretation of old laws with respect to the innovation. So this is not unique to crypto, but I think crypto has it in spades. But where our takeoff point was from that, for that tangent was with respect to staking, which was where we got to this trustworthiness of platforms idea. And I said, well, Binance has its own currency, which is BNB, and Coinbase doesn't. So what's staking got to do with Binance was one of the questions that I was trying to come up with. And I said to you, Owen, why don't you stake Binance if you can get this very high yield from it, where that yield is actually not the changing in the price of the currency, but the number of those currencies that you hold because you are staking that currency. So
Yeah.
I'd just like you to sort of go through what you mean by staking a currency and where you can get this freedom, okay, this free return. So you, for example, you put in at the beginning of the year 100 BNBs, and at the end of the year you come up with 178.
7. Huh. No, 100 it's 7, 107 because it's 7%.
107 BNBs. So that's
Yeah.
now the staking yield
Right.
of the BNB. So
Yeah.
one, why wouldn't you always want to do this? You know, what are the risks in that? Or why might you want to do this? And what does this staking actually mean? What are you doing when you're staking?
Well, I mean, staking to I think of staking like a CD where you provide the asset, the crypto asset that you have, and you give it to, in this case, the 7.8% that's on Trust Wallet. And so they hold on to it. And as a reward, you are, by the end of the year, you have 7.8% more of that coin. The downside to staking is now you don't have the fluidity to trade that asset anymore, that crypto asset. So given your belief in your ability to, let's say, beat the market, or to, it's not even, it doesn't even have to be about beating the market. If you just want to be able to have your funds whenever you want to have your funds, and you don't want your funds locked up, then that's why, I mean, I've not chosen to lock up BNB. That being said, I do have my crypto, which has now been rebranded as Kronos coin, CRO coin, locked up. It's how do I say this? It's locked up on their platform. So for all intents and purposes, they're staking it. The return that I get is a crypto.com card, and I get 2% on every transaction, 2% of any transaction I make, any purchase I make. So if I made a purchase of $100, I would get 2% back in CRO coin, as well as I get Spotify paid back to me in CRO. So this isn't BNB that I've got staked, but I do have my CRO stake, and it's staked for 6 months. BNB, if I were to stake it, that'd be staked for 7 days. And I guess the reason why I haven't stuck with BNB or Ethereum is what I only came to learn last year. Yeah, you know, at the start, well, yeah, I guess 2022 was when I started to venture outside of the top 3 cryptos. So initially, most people just buy their Bitcoin and their Ethereum, and maybe Binance, just the top market cap cryptos, and then we'll stake them. I did stake my Ethereum briefly, but then the greater desire for to just play more with volatility, to learn more, to have greater fluidity, meaning I want my assets to be fluid. I don't want them to be locked up. Then that's why, yeah, by and large, that's why I don't lock up my crypto.
Okay, so you've used the term staking. Last week we were talking about Celsius. I said that my interpretation was that Celsius was the bank, and basically that they took your crypto that you locked up with them, thereby losing your liquidity, and then they basically lent it out. So this would be lending out like a bank does. It takes a deposit in the crypto and lends it out. Now, is staking, you said when you think of a stake, you think of a CD, which is a certificate of deposit, which is like a banking term. Now, is staking different from depositing in a CD fashion, because I know that there is something called proof of stake, and I know that BNB is a crypto that uses, to some extent, and I don't know what that extent is, proof of stake. So is there a difference between staking and depositing? And is that, or is it basically a terminology question? And you can stake it with somebody or you deposit it with something, and from your point of view, it's the same, but what they do with it might be different.
I'm just gonna read this to you,
I'm
so I don't like pull this out of my own I have my own answer to this, but I know it'll be way too rough, so I'd rather just get the Motley Fools. It's a trading platform. How they define it. The proof of stake model allows owners of a cryptocurrency to stake coins and create their own validator nodes. So this is a way to further ensure security of the network. Basically, staking is when you pledge your coins to be used for verifying transactions. And so, yes, there is a very clear difference between providing a deposit and staking. And like I said, with the trust wallet, if I choose to stake my BNB, I don't, and that's why I pin it to a CD, you have a certificate deposit, where I'm pretty sure for CDs, they're also, you have 1 month terms. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or
Well, CDs, you can have any terms. It depends on the bank want to give you. You know, a 1 year CD, a 6 month CD, a 2 year CD.
Would they have a daily CD or?
They don't usually call it a daily CD. They would
No.
call it a deposit, which an overnight deposit. That's what they call it.
Or overnight deposit, right?
Right.
So,
And
right,
having a CD, one of the things with having a CD is that typically a certificate is associated with it. Going back into the days when securities were actually written down, having that certificate, typically that certificate would be you could sell a certificate, right?
right,
So
right.
it is a tradable certificate.
Right. And in similar fashion, when I staked my Ethereum, I was given, let's say, a certificate that it was called, so I staked ETH and I got BETH, which is Binance ETH. So I could still trade that like I had Ethereum, which is what I ended up doing because I chose that to trade the BE instead of holding on to the BE until my term was up and then reap the, I would think it was 5% APR on the Binance platform. So to answer your question, it's not the same. You can deposit, I can deposit my crypto in Binance or Celsius. If I deposit in Celsius, then that deposit isn't locked. They, as you noted, will trade or do with it as they will, but I can remove it whenever I want. And I understand that you have your own doubts about that, that at any point in time, maybe I won't be able to. I have no doubt that that's no different than if there was a bank run. You know, if everyone all of a sudden just wanted to take their crypto outside of Celsius, yeah, there's, I wouldn't be surprised if I had difficulty removing my whatever I had on their platform. But if I was okay with somewhere anywhere in the ballpark of 5 to I think 11%, 11% is what they give for Polygon, Matic. That's another cryptocurrency. If I was okay with just leaving that as my yearly return, then I would just leave my crypto on Celsius, not staking. What maybe they stake it on their end, but I'm always free to withdraw at any point in time.
Okay, and so Celsius wouldn't tell you whether they're staking it or whether they're lending it, but they would accept a deposit in that crypto from you, and you could withdraw it in the same way that you could draw the money with the bank.
Exactly.
When you I think with Binance on their staking, that when you're staking it, you are actually staking
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
giving the authority to whoever you're giving it to use it as part of their proof of stake.
yeah,
That proof of stake will be then part of the algorithm that is used by the currency itself in minting that next um, uh, not minting in authorizing that next
mhm,
block.
yeah,
And that authorizing of the block then would go to the node who had, or the authorizer who had the most stake,
mhm,
or who was coming up in line for having
yeah,
the most stake in whatever algorithm that they had that
yeah,
solved the problem of authorizing that next block in the blockchain.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. So sure. And that isn't now the question is, does that deplete or increase our confidence in that site? Right. So that
I mean, what does it do for you?
well, to the extent that they have something else in their set of
Mhm,
services,
mhm,
and that includes, I suppose, their own currency, and
mhm,
increasing or decreasing the value of their own currency. Perhaps you could tell a story about Binance coming up with a manipulation of their currency story. And I'm not sure what that would look like, but
mhm,
you might have then a conflict of interest developing that would be there on Binance and not there on Coinbase. I don't know how you tell the story exactly,
mhm,
but I can
mhm,
see that if they're also issuing currency, uh, or if they have issued currency and they're releasing it or not releasing it from their own coffers, then this might be a conflict with the people that are trying to operate their trading platform or use the services of the trading platforms. So I think that would be one other strike, if you like,
mhm.
against Binance versus Coinbase.
Well, on that very point, what's worth looking at before a judgment is made is the circulation of the coin, obviously, and how much of it, much like the shares of a company, how much of it is owned by the platform, how much of it is circulated already, how much is yet to be circulated, and this is like the cryptonomics, or how that, and this is another, I wouldn't say, I think the crypto economics. I think there's a better term for it, but for the time being, I'll just call it cryptonomics. That how the coin circulates, because that was partly why it was so high last year and it's less high this year. Obviously, you don't want the coin to be too inflationary, but you also want to get the coin out there and as many hands as possible. So, to what extent, if there is any burn associated, this is something that Ethereum actually passed out last year, with every transaction of Ethereum, some percentage of Ethereum is burned. So there is less Ethereum in circulation, thereby on some level increasing the value of Ethereum. Um, it, it, I mean, this is a whole nother topic when it comes to crypto economics, but it's worth uh, looking at clearly before using it as a strike.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that really answers questions that I wanted to have answered with respect to staking and Binance and Coinbase, and the extent to which one would trust one versus the other. That then leaves us for next week to talk about does secret coin solve the transparency, confidentiality, security, liberty conundrum?
Yeah.
Now I want to know before we do that, are we talking about a single coin called secret coin, or are we talking about a family of coins, crypto, which are secret coin?
looking at the secret network. So let me just, we can get started on the same page by literally, I put it, the link to, and we can just kind of read through this in our own time. Secret network is the first blockchain with data privacy by default, allowing you to build and use applications that are both permissionless and privacy preserving. Unique functionality protects users, secures applications, and unlocks hundreds of new cases for Web3. And you can read more about it, but yeah, it's a whole network, and there's also a coin on the network. So just like Binance is BNB, you have the smart chain network where transactions happen on the Binance network that are, I don't know if they, by virtue of it being on the Binance network, if that makes them all proof of, I think that's just the Binance coin, but kind of got lost down a rabbit hole of thought when it came to proof of stake.
Okay, so
But
so
either way,
does the question,
yeah,
does the question then become, does the secret network solve
Yeah.
the transparency? Okay,
Yeah.
rather than the secret coin. Got it. Okay.
coin, yeah,
Right. And then for the week after, so that's next week. For the week after, we can trim this question somewhat, but basically we want to know how the SEC's interpretation of crypto leads to the muddying of waters in the crypto community. Is that it?
We're like muddying, or how does one even, we can speculate off of that too. How do we want regulation? How can regulation actually work if if like the SEC, one of the major US markets, can't get its act together? I mean, I that sounds way too defamatory, but what I'm trying to say is there is a large desire and belief in regulation. It's just, how do we have it if currently the legislating body isn't doing a stellar job of putting this into practice, because of just unclear legal, outdated legal jargon.
So how can the SEC fulfill a constructive regulatory role in
Rule,
crypto
yeah.
space?
Yeah, yeah, and what are the current issues it's currently facing? I mean, that's actually a larger question. So maybe not what are the issues it's facing, but rather
How can they fulfill a constructive role?
how can they fulfill a constructive role, and what is it doing right now if it's not doing that? Because there is an element of just looking at what is currently happening in the SEC. So it's kind of understanding where we're at and where we could go.
Okay, so how
Yeah.
can what is the SEC doing in crypto space now, and how can it fulfill a constructive regulatory role?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it.
okay,
yeah.
okay. Now, okay, great. So that would be a good one for not next week, but the week after.
Week after, yeah, and
And-
yeah, I'm glad that we've cleared up at least what we're doing for the next 2 weeks.
Okay, fine. And then sometime after that, then maybe you might want to do something on crypto economics and burning and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's also worthwhile because it was briefly touched on too just now, when we were talking about how Binance has could not rug pull, but just inflate its own coin, and I don't think we can make that kind of judgment until we have an understanding of how the coin circulates.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Before we move on, before we end the call, what I wanted to do last week and I didn't end up doing because I think I ended it too quickly. Well, but I understand that we do want to end it quickly, but just as in a quick word or two, what were your biggest takeaways from this week's discussion?
Oh, okay. Well, I think the largest one was that what Binance and Coinbase are doing with their platforms is changing fairly rapidly, and that what might be listed on Wikipedia is not necessarily what is actually going on because of this rapid change. I was it was interesting to hear your comments on why you found, on what risks you found in dealing with a wallet on an exchange.
Mhm.
And they weren't quite the risks that I thought of. They were more the risks of freezing because of technical issues. You mentioned the VPN and you mentioned site crashing.
Yeah.
And these were things that I hadn't thought of. And
Mhm.
that you felt that whether you're looking at Binance or you're looking at Coinbase, or indeed any trading platform, that you would face these. And that was one reason why you might want to be holding most of the time your currency directly, notwithstanding, of course, the difficulty of being your own custodian and having risk that you could lose your numbers.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So it was interesting to hear you say that, and it was interesting also. Gave me a greater understanding about how you treated Binance,
Mhm.
and why in some ways you saw it as being superior to Coinbase.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good to, I mean, I don't think we got this in the recording, but just the way you, I mean, you said in our discussion just now that because it's a listed company, then, and because the founder of Coinbase went through Airbnb and
And got and
Goldman,
through also
Goldman
the
Sachs.
he also went through the venture capital route of getting money.
Right, right.
So that
So,
was very familiar to me.
right. So the familiarity as a way to vet it is versus, I guess, at least on initial basic search, where there's a series of red flags, and it not being listed, working against it. Like that's an interesting. I just find that to be just a interesting perspective because I mean, obviously, you're not going to be alone in jumping to these conclusions, and whether or not Binance gets listed in the future to circumvent that problem, or whether Wikipedia updates its information so that it's actually up to date, it becomes somewhat of an issue. And
Right. And
what I understand, like Binance wants anyone in the crypto sphere, like once one crypto does well, they all do well. Like a rising tide rises all ships. So this is the unfortunate bit where, yeah, there is this sense of lack of scruples or something being shady, and anything that can be done to clear things up. I think it always works in favor of cryptocurrency being adopted.
right. Also, I live in China, right? And I was interested that Binance was part of what I knew about at the time, that China was the center of the crypto world.
Right.
And then because of actions taken by the People's Bank of China, then all of crypto trading disappeared from China. And of course, one of the disappearers is the guy Zhang Zhengpeng, no, Zhao Zhangpeng, the guy who CZ, who set up Binance, and he physically moved his servers that were dealing with these out of the country. But he came to crypto obviously from Canada, which is where he had his final education, his university education, but through China. He went back to Shanghai, and he was really in the crypto space. And then when things got too hot for him, then because People's Bank of China said, nope, we're not having that industry in China, then he moved out. So
Do you?
it's a lot of fun.
I mean, I guess time will tell whether that will work in favor of China or not. Whether that was a wise choice for China to do that. Do you have any thoughts or?
Not in 5 minutes. We're now
No,
20
fair
minutes
enough.
over time, and,
Yeah.
and I gotta get home.
Get
So,
going. All right. Well, love you, Dad, and I guess we'll continue the conversation next week.
okay, right. See you next week.
See you next week.
Right.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.